Hello everyone and welcome to today's video. Now I'm going to be looking at this album by wonderful band XTC. It is the album English Settlement here. So today I'll just be doing my usual thing, giving a bit of background information about the album, then showing you my vinyl copy and then looking at each of the album songs in detail. But before I go any further, I need to give credit to a wonderful website out there called Chalk Hills, which is a absolutely brilliant website for like XTC information. Like there's lots of interviews with Andy Partridge and Colin Moulding got it. There's guitar tabs, there's album artwork. This review probably wouldn't have been as well researched if it wasn't for the Chalk Hills website. So I will link that website in the description. So this was the band's 5th studio album, released on the 12th of February in 1982. It represented a musical progression for the band towards a more kind of pastoral, acoustic based sound, but also more expansive and longer formed material. It was produced by Hugh Padgham, who had been the engineer on the last two XTC records. Critically, it got a mostly positive reception, and many felt that this was the album where XTC was kind of finally going to break through into the mainstream to a much wider audience, because before that the album came out they had a big hit single of Centuries Working Overtime, the lead single from it. The album charted at number 5 in the UK, so it was all looking up for the band. However, this wasn't to be, as a world tour was cancelled early on due to Andy Partridge's growing sort of mental health condition. Basically, it's quite a long story, but from a young age, he'd been prescribed this drug Valium to help him cope with his sort of dysfunctional family. Whether he'd grown very much addicted and dependent on this drug. And at some point on the last tour, his then girlfriend and partner at the time decided for whatever reason to flush these drugs down the toilet, not believing that they'd done Andy any good. And he effectively went completely cold turkey and tried to come off this drugs which he'd had since he was 12. He suffered intense anxiety, panic attacks before he went on stage, and even during live performances as well. There's some footage of him, I think in France, basically just walking off midway through an XTC concert, just suffering from a panic attack. And this would be XTC's last tour, their last ever live performance took place in California on the 3rd of April in 1982, so they had pretty much less than 2 months touring this album, and really they didn't have the chance to sort of build up momentum to make this a really big hit album, which arguably could have been for the band. Another notable thing about the record is that in England it came out as a double record set. However, for most of the rest of the world, it was cut down to a single record with 5 tracks missing. So as I said, it was a successful release for the band. It hit number 5 in the UK. I said, only got to number 48 in America, but it was in the charts for 20 weeks, meaning they kind of toured properly to promote this record. It might have sold more copies. It would have had a bit more momentum behind it. So I want to now show you my vinyl copy of it here. This is a original UK pressing, I believe. Now the album cover is based on a sculpture, I think called the Huffington White Horse, which is located on a hill in Oxfordshire. Because an actual I don't think it's a natural thing, but it's certainly it's carved into it's carved into this hillside in Oxfordshire. It's quite stunning when you see it actually. So there's the cover, there's the back of it there, and you get the track listing at the bottom. I will admit this isn't in brilliant condition, this copy of it here, but I got it for very cheap. Kind of before I was a major XTC fan. This was very much my introduction properly to their career. So you get 2 inner sleeves here, both kind of similar design. There's a nice picture of the band and lyrics on the other side. Plus you get these nice custom labels as well, which is really cool, just with each of the side numbers on it there. So there's side 1 and 2. And the other sleeve looks like this here, so you get a wee portrait of each band member. and more lyrics, and once again the record just looks like this. So overall, the vinyl packaging to this is really, really nice. You can also get a deluxe box set as well, which has a double record set plus a booklet and the CD. Like, I've got the Skylarking one, but like it would be quite nice to get the one for English Settlement as well. So I am just now going to go over each of the album songs in detail. I'll score each track out of 10, and then those scores will be used to give us a overall percentage marking for the album. So the record begins with a song called Runaways, which is a sort of slightly slow burning track. It is a maybe slightly like odd choice to open the album with, because it is quite slow, like quite like a brooding track. It has these kind of sort of tribal sort of backing vocals, like these very sort of echoey, like atmospheric drums, and like lyrically it's quite interesting, like as well, about like a kind of domestic dispute and like kind of like a young person like running away like from home. Like really gives the album a very sort of mysterious and like quite dark start to the record. The next song on the album is another Colin Moulding song, and it is Ball and Chain, which is a really fantastic song. It's about the kind of destruction of like British industry, like under like Margaret Thatcher government, like of like the time, but like also could be about preserving like historic like architecture. Originally this was meant as the first single from the record, because they recorded a version sort of like out with like the album sessions like soon after finishing Black Sea with hit-making team Langer and Win Stanley. However, this version like was never released, and they re-recorded it like for this album. Despite like the lyrics like to like the song, which you think okay, like it's quite like a political like sort of song, like about like I'd like save our industry, and that like it doesn't come across like as angry. Like it's quite a celebratory sort of very like upbeat kind of almost sort of football chant sort of style song, like once again like with a fantastic key change out towards the end, which was really like XTC like knew that when to like apply this to make like the songs really like lift off, and like this song certainly does like towards like the last minute. This was the second single from the record, and like probably had like they been promoting like the album and like sort of like to like the full extent, like I think it would have done like a lot better. Like as it did, it only reached number 58 like on like the charts, so yeah, like not really a fantastic follow-up performance there like from Ball and Chain, but I think it still stands up like as a wonderful song. And then the next one is probably my favourite, like, on the album. Like, I'd say most people's favourite, Senses Working Overtime, which is a absolutely classic pop single here. Partridge said that, like, it said that this was a conscious effort to write a hit single, like, after pressure, like, from Virgin Records. Like, so, like, he decided to keep the song quite simple. Like, he thought, okay, like, what sort of like quite common, like what do most people get? Okay, counting. Okay, like maybe like I can have a song with sort of like some sort of countdown like in it. So like yeah, like he kind of like worked it out like that and thought, okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We've got 5 senses. So like he writes a song about the senses, like how it's quite sort of like celebratory to sort of like fully like sort of explore like the world and like sort of take like everything in. And like the verses though kind of almost sound like a completely different song. Like it's quite mysterious, like inspired by sort of like medieval like industry. And like I said, like that chorus just so rousing and like sort of like upbeat. Yeah, really incredibly like well constructed track here. And like as I said, that was a big hit single for them, reached number 10 like on like the UK singles chart. So yeah, Senses Working Overtime, absolutely brilliant classic track there. And the next one is called Jason and the Argonauts, which is a more kind of sort of slow burning, like sort of psychedelic tinge number. You've got like these kind of drum cymbals going on, like on like the introduction with these sort of tingling like acoustic guitars going on. Lyrically, this is another very interesting track about kind of travelling the world, but being quite sort of cynical and like disapproving like out like one sees. Like there's a nice line like in it about living in a world where men force women to hide their facial features, but in the West, like it's the same except with makeup. And like yeah, like it's just a lovely like song. I think really like it's well performed. It's quite catchy, like, as well. And like, it's pretty long as well. It's about 6 minutes, but the middle section where it's kind of like just like this, like sort of jingly, like acoustic guitar, it's very easy just to get like lost in it. Like, it's very like hypnotic, like middle part, like to the song. So yeah, Jason and the Argonauts, another really great track there. We'll give it a 9 out of 10 from me. And then the opener to side 2 is another real favourite track of mine. It's No Thugs in Our House, which is probably the most powerful, most rocking song like on the record, which almost takes the form like off like a mini play / like operetta thing. Basically, like lyrically, it's like a policeman like sort of calls into like this family to like investigate like this racial beating up or like killing like off someone, like which like their son Graham like was like involved with, like whether like his parents are sort of very defensive like of their son, saying, oh no, we promised Graham that he'd be a good boy, like that sort of thing. But then like the middle eighth like of it, like we're told that Graham has like a National Front tattoo, like, and has like this sort of racist literature like in like his bedroom. And like the last verse is that where like we found out that Graham like actually doesn't like serve justice because his father like is like a judge, so like manages to get his son like out of trouble. Just an amazingly creative song, like so sort of like oddball, but really like there's no detail like left like unexplored like with like this track here. This was also notably a 3rd single as well, but failed to chart. I think it was probably just a bit too clever like for like the pop charts like off like the time, like, to be honest with you. But a wonderful track there, No Thugs in Our House. An easy 10 out of 10. And then we get the first sort of slightly weaker track like on the record. It's a song called Yacht Dance, which is a kind of softer like acoustic piece, which really for me kind of shows the way like they were going to go like on like the Mama album, like with songs like Love on a Farm Boy's Wages. However, this track just isn't quite as strong as that. Like, there's not much lyrics to it. It's kind of like a sea shanty style song, and like you really kind of need to be like in like the mood for this track to really like enjoy it. But it is, it's not bad. Like, it's quite a nice track like when it's on. And then closing off side 2 is another favourite track of mine. It's All of a Sudden It's Too Late, which is an easy 10 out of 10 for me. This is a much kind of sort of softer song, like almost like sort of like a ballad, like in like some ways. It's a very beautiful song, I think, but also quite sad as well, like about sort of growing old before like your time. I love the drumming on this as well, like by Teddy Chambers. It's like very unique. Like I forget what like the actual type of drumsticks are called. But they're the ones with sort of like the big ends like on there, like sort of like the thicker ends. Just really gives it like this great sort of booming sound to it. Dave Gregory's got some great like Rickenbacker 12 string like going on like on this song here, and like Partridge singing some very beautiful, very poetic lyrics like such as life's like a jigsaw, you get the straight bits but there's something missing in the middle. Like very profound things like with like very sort of beautiful like imagery. Partridge said like in like an interview that he feels like this song's too long. I disagree there. Like, I love this track. Like, keep coming back to it. It is another like real favourite of mine. And then this is kind of where the album does start to tail off a little bit for me. The next one is called Melt the Guns, which is my least favourite song like on the album. The riff to this like is quite sort of, I'd say sort of slightly reggae like influence here. Like, it is pretty good. The first verse is pretty good, but it's like when we get to the chorus, it's just quite annoying, like very quickly. Like, I mean, like, it's catchy, but like just so damn annoying. I mean, like, lyrically, like, it is quite a good sentiment. Like, he's just saying like he wants to like get rid of like weapons, which is a good sort of message like to have, but it's just not really like a like effective way like of like conveying it like in like this track here. Plus it's just far too long like towards the end. Like, it gets quite sort of almost quite difficult to listen to like towards the end, like where like they're just kind of like not like even really singing like the line, they're just sort of like sort of breathing it or like stuff. It just doesn't really work too well for me. Melt the Guns would get a 5 out of 10 personally. Next song that does pick up the album is Leisure, which is a song which does come in for criticism like quite a lot, but I think it is pretty good. Like, it's quite I mean, like, it is like a sort of disjointed track, but like I do really love like the guitar break, like on like the chorus, like, and like kind of like the phrasing, like on like the drums. It's very sort of small faces, like Itchy Park sort of style thing. It's quite sort of Britpoppy, this song, like as well, like quite ahead of its time. I mean, and like lyrically, again quite ahead of its time concerning someone like who's sort of just been made redundant from their job and like replaced like with like a computer, and like the irony like of like the song being that like the character like in like the song like now just stays at home like and plays computer games like all day, and like there's a nice line about searching for the jobs that don't exist. So yeah, like again another sort of slightly political song like for like the time, but really works well. Leisure. We're getting 8 out of 10 from me. And the next number is called It's Nearly Africa, which is another slightly weaker track like, from the record from me. It's sort of got like these African like rhythms on it, which is good. Like they're like exploring something new, but like it's nothing really too special. It's almost kind of like, well, let's try this. Like let's try like a bit of like African like drum beats. Like the Talking Heads have done it. Why can't we do it? They just don't do it like all that great like on like this album, and like don't really put in like the effort like as far like as like the lyrical content goes like with this song here. But it's quite fun, quite danceable, but nothing really too special. We'll get 6 out of 10 from me. It's Nearly Africa. And the next number is called Knuckle Down, which is another kind of more sort of slow burner number. Like you really like need to listen to this like a few times for it to sort of like properly grow on you. The chorus like is like pretty good, and but lyrically is maybe like a little bit cryptic, this song here. Like my like interpretation is like it's about sort of like inter-race like relationships, like kind of saying just like respect like each other, like sort of like don't be like racist, like those sort of things. Right, really, I mean like it is like a good song there. Knuckle Down. We'll get an 8 out of 10 from me. And then opening up to side 2, we get song Fly on the Wall, which is another Colin Moulding number. Like he gets 4 tracks like on this album. Personally, this is I would say maybe my least favourite Colin Moulding song. Like this one, or maybe like the next one, like which is coming up. It's sort of got like this strange effects like on like the vocals on it, like it almost doesn't sound like Moulding singing it. Like instrumentally, like it does sound very much like ahead of its time, like as well. Like again, it sounds quite sort of 90s, quite Britpoppy like this track here. Because bands like Blur like would like go on to be like incredibly like influenced by like XTC. Fly on the Wall, like not a bad song there, just not like an immediate like go-to track for me. And the next one is called Down in the Cockpit, which is another sort of upbeat song. This one's sort of got this sort of dub, sort of ska-like feel to it. Really nicely recorded guitars that go on like this song. They sound very clear, very crisp. And like lyrically, like it's about sort of man's reliance on like women like over the years. Like I would say like it could be like a slight rebuke of like the slightly misogynistic nature like off Sergeant Rock Is Gonna Help Me, like that song like hasn't dated too well like lyrically, whereas this song like it kind of seems like Partridge like is trying to sort of like reposition like himself like sort of like reply to that song like kind of thing. Like I mean like it's quite like a fun like upbeat jaunty number, possibly like outstays its welcome like a little bit, but there's enough going on like in like this track to keep like you interested. So I would give it a 9 out of 10 for Down in the Cockpit. And then the penultimate song is maybe my least favourite Colin Moulding number. It's English Roundabout, which this one is inspired by a roundabout like in like the hometown like off like Swindon. Like it's this thing called the Magic Roundabout, which like when like you Google it, you see it. It's so confusing. Like it's this big sort of road like intersection with about 7 different mini roundabouts. It just seems like hell to like navigate. Apparently like that's what this song like is like inspired by. Other notable thing about it, it's got a kind of strange like 5/4 like time signature on it, which really gives it like this odd like kind of like rhythm. Like it is quite difficult to sort of like tap along like to like this song sort of thing. But like yeah, like that's about like really like the only like interesting thing like about it. Lyrically, it's like nothing much. So English Roundabout, we're getting 7 out of 10 from me. And then we close the record with another Andy Partridge number called Snowman, which is a good closing track. I feel like you've got some really nice backing vocals on it. Lyrically, it's just about like how like a girl like kind of like rejects like and like ignores like the guy that's singing like this song here. It's quite similar like in some ways musically to like the opening song Runaways, like with like this very sort of slow like brooding like drum rhythm. And like I'd say that Snowman does like round off the album like pretty well. Okay, so overall, this album would score 83%. So I would say this is a really, really strong record, and like, unlike a lot of double albums, I think actually holds up like pretty well with like relatively few like filler songs. There's only a couple like on here which I could do without, like such as Melt the Guns, It's Nearly Africa, and possibly like English Roundabout. Like I would say though, like with like the single vinyl, like which was issued, like they did do like a pretty good job like of like selecting like the 10 best songs like from like the album, but I do think like you do lose a bit of like the personality like of this record, because like, I always feel like there is like something missing like when like, you only listen to like the original like 10-track album. The themes on this record are great, like they're quite wide-ranging, like about sort of like joy and like love to like different like society, like sort of politics, like race, like relationships, like just like a very much like a wide like sort of like lyrical like overview like on this record. And musically, production wise, I think it's aged remarkably well, despite being produced by like Hugh Padgham, like who like was a guy like who gave us like Genesis, like Invisible Touch, like Paul McCartney's Press to Play, like records which haven't really like aged too well. I think this one stands up and like actually like does still sound like pretty fresh. And like XTC's catalogue, I'd say this is probably their Revolver, you know, like they were still sort of a touring band like when like they made this, and like they did like attempt like some of like the material live, like however the outlook is a lot more sort of studio focused and like a lot more kind of like genre crossing like is like going on, like much like the Beatles were doing like on like Revolver, like where like they very much became like a fully sort of studio band. The same thing, exact same thing happened with XTC like around this time. So yeah, brilliant record here. Like if like you're not familiar with it, definitely do like check it out. And like I hope you have enjoyed this review, and I'll see you all next time for the next one. Goodbye.